Mm. Hi everyone, my name's Peter. Welcome. So we've got a video sponsored by Factor, and it's time for some pencil drawing. A little bit in the mood because one, I've got some drawing class homework that I just finished, which I did in pencil. I'm going to show you that in a second. And also, this is rare. I actually got this. This does usually the art on the front of my art supplies. It's like kind of annoying. I wish it just had pencils on there, but I actually really like this drawing of. Actually, I don't know what kind of flowers this is. Someone probably knows, but this is one kind of pencil I've been using. I love that drawing. It made me want to draw pencils. So I've got these pencils, Mitsubishi High Uni art set with a huge 22 degrees of hardness. You can see I haven't even used all of them yet. Only like 6 or 7 of them are even sharpened. Those are nice. And then my other set I've been using here are these Krita colors. And these ones are interesting because these are woodless pencils. So these are the 2 types of pencils I'm going to be using. These ones are mostly very soft. So these get pretty nice and dark. But today it is time to dibujar con lápiz, as you'd say in español. Yo no necesito mi bolígrafo, always. Basically, this homework assignment started out with me doing some little, I guess these are called value studies. You can see they're just little squares of things I saw around my house. Here's some more, just little random things around the house. And then the goal after that was to combine a few of these squares and elements and things into one bigger, better, badder, polished drawing. What you see here are some little planning drawings about how to maybe possibly piece it all together. Option 1, option 2, I ended up going with this little guy right here. So here is the finished product based on this plan. Ta-da! So there you have it. This is like an 11 by 14 piece of paper. There's some close-ups for you. I have mixed feelings about it. It was a bit of a struggle. I'll save that. I'll talk about that in a second when I'm drawing again. Anyways, unlike my homework, I'm not going to plan it out at all. I'm just going to kind of go at it. But I am going to aim for, well, like one of the assignments in the homework. Some very dark areas, some very light areas, just that wide range of value. I think it is interesting. It is also something I've been aiming for in my pen drawings too. The darkness, the lightness, stuff in between. It does make it interesting to look at. But first, let's look at what I had for lunch. All of my lunches recently, and most of my dinners, have been Factor meals. I've been using Factor for like 5 months before doing this segment, and I'm very happy with the way it helps me eat healthier while still providing me with the variety, tastiness, and convenience that usually in the past has driven me to more unhealthy foods. Every week, you can go on the huge and frequently updated menu and choose which meals you want for the upcoming week. Or you can take the hands-off approach, relax, and let Factor automatically fill the order. I've personally tried a ton of different ones, even from the various categories like keto, calorie smart, vegan and veggie stuff I might not have normally ordered, but it was all delicious. And it's never frozen, only refrigerated. So head to go.factor75.com/draws120 and use code draws120 to get $120 off. That's right, click the link in the description and get $120 off with code DRAWS120. Switching to pencil from pen as a longtime pen and ink drawer is a little bit difficult sometimes just due to they're very different. For example, I was trying to explain this to my drawing teacher as I have a one-on-one Zoom meeting with her once a week, and pencil it's more analog, right? And pen, what I'm used to, is more digital in the sense that you draw a line and there's either a line there or there's not. It's as simple as that, right? And that's what I'm used to. I like that, the crispness, the cleanliness, the simplicity of a line or not a line. And then you can move past that and work with those lines. But when you bring in these pencils, at first I was pretty discouraged, and sometimes it almost got a little bit torturous, which is, of course, something you don't want from art. If you feel like you're making art and it feels like a chore, take a break. And I had to do that at a couple points until sometimes there can be a little bit of I was going to say paradigm shift, but I don't know what that means. A bit of a perspective shift, right? Just come at it from a different angle. My problem was I felt like I had to use some sort of superhuman Zen-like, incredible amount of focus to create like the smooth, filled in areas and gradients that I wanted with the pencil. Because it's easy to scribble away with the pencil and you can see the pencil strokes, but it takes a little bit more practice to fill in an area, and then there's only the tone, the value, is that the art word for it? Like that shade of gray. It's just like a field of gray instead of a field of pencil scritches and scratches, right? And I got by this in a couple of ways. First of all, well, by practicing a little bit, using the pencil, I inevitably got a little better at it. The fun thing about switching mediums is, whether you're like me, you're most comfortable with pen and you switch to pencil. Sometimes I switch to other things like, watercolor sometimes, or painting, right? The fun thing about switching to a new medium is that there's like this whole big rush of new amazing things that you learn right at the beginning. It kind of plateaus a little bit after a while. But right now I'm at that big rushing stage where I'm learning stuff. And I quickly did learn how to draw in a way that didn't frustrate me so much. I got a little bit better. But also, on the flip side of that same coin, I just learned to embrace the imperfections a little bit, right? Which is something I've always encouraged. That it's okay. It's okay if a drawing looks like a drawing, because it is. There's only a few types of art where it's not supposed to look like a drawing, like those hyper-realistic drawings that look like photographs. That's a whole different thing. So I got better, and I accepted my humanity and the fact that I was moving a pencil across the paper, and it might look like that sometimes. But the analog nature of pencils really does allow you to have a lot more fun in certain areas than pens. I mean, it's still there with pens. You just approach it in a different way. But the fact that with the same pencil, you can draw so many different types of lines, like a line that is just barely visible, like a thin, fragile strand of hair fell onto the paper, or a big, bold line, like a mole fell off your arm onto the paper and got dragged along, skidding and leaving a skid mark. You can do that with the same pencil. It's so cool. And then you can turn lines, dots into lines into shapes, and then you can fit all these different dots, lines, and shapes next to each other with different darknesses and lightnesses. And sometimes if you embrace the texture, you can get cool textures. You can get cool different things by sharpening the pencils different amounts and blending them with your finger, or a whole other tons of different ways. The type of paper matters. There's like a million different things, right? The way you hold the pencil, how much of the tip is touching the paper. Anyways, there's so much to it. It's fun. I'm probably going to do some more pencil drawings. One of the other main discouraging things to me about pencil is how easy it is to get smudges everywhere. The only reason I use a certain type of ink in my pens is because it doesn't smudge very much. And it's okay. Smudges are fine. It's not the end of the world if your drawing gets a smudge on it, especially if it's in pencil, because you can probably erase it. In ink, it's a little more difficult. So I should, in my mind, be extra amicable towards smudges, right? Because I'm used to them being permanent. But still, it's frustrating when you have a nice, crisp pencil drawing that you're doing and it starts to turn kind of mushy and cloudy, because as you're working on some parts of the drawing, your hand is smudging other parts of the drawing and moving the graphite around. But of course, there are ways to combat this. In this video, you'll notice that I wore the glove, which I had cut 3 of the fingers off of, 3 fingers for gripping the pencil, 2 fingers in the glove for resting on the paper. You can also do things like putting another sheet of paper under your hand, between your hand and the drawing paper. I should have tried that. And I think there's a thing that's normally used in painting called a maul stick, which is just a way to kind of prop your hand up off the paper a little bit with a little bit of leverage from the stick. I'm not sure if that would work here or not. Maybe for some parts of the drawing. Anyways, here's some talk, non-drawing related. I think it was 2 days ago, I had a very weird day. And the day itself wasn't weird, but sometimes if something weird happens to you, it's just like one little hiccup in the day. And you're like, that was odd. And then you move on, right? But if a day accumulates too many of these hiccups and bumps and starts to become too filled with weird things, it's easy to start getting suspicious, right? I kind of felt like Alice in Wonderland. I went into the Home Depot and I couldn't find anything I wanted, like just some pieces of wood. They only had very big pieces of wood. Anyways, I found it later at Lowe's. The point is, at the Home Depot, I was walking out and I think it was the loading door, these automatic doors, where I guess they're very big because they want to be able to drive forklifts through them. But I walked up to them, and I guess it was supposed to be an exit-only door, and I walked up to it and about ran right into it. But then I think it's because I had never been so close to them before. Usually they're open when I'm that close to them. And these were just the biggest sliding glass automatic doors I'd ever seen. I'm like, no, this is probably normal, right? And so then I thought they were one of those doors that you could pull in an emergency. I was standing there at this massive door, like as big as the side of a barn, with my hands crammed in the middle, like I'm trying to save someone stuck in an elevator. I'm trying to pry the doors open, because I thought if I just start pulling a little bit, they would automatically start opening. At first they didn't. And they opened like 1 inch and then stopped. And then I was like, I don't know, I don't want to get trapped between these giant doors that are bigger than anything I've ever seen before. I don't know why they seem so big to me, but they did. And so at that point I was like, surely someone's I was looking over my shoulder. No one was paying attention. Okay. And then I started to walk away. And as soon as I started walking away, they opened and I walked out. I thought, okay, someone's messing with me. But they probably weren't. It's probably just someone walking up from the other side. There probably were just entrance-only doors that I was trying to exit out of, which is very annoying. You should be able to enter and exit from any doors. It makes you feel very invisible to walk up to a motion-sensing door and it doesn't open. But then someone else walks up and it opens for them. Was I not good enough? And then I was over at the art supply store, Jerry's, standing in the aisle, and I saw this huge caterpillar. No, not a caterpillar, a centipede, at least as big as my thumb. Right, probably about the same size as my thumb. Slowly, it was on the floor, just slowly going across the floor from one side of the aisle to the other. And it scared me at first because I turned around and almost stepped on it. But then I was just standing there watching it. I have never seen a centipede like this before. I mean, I've seen some centipedes before. I've seen my fair share of centipedes. And I hadn't seen one like this before. And I was very excited. I stood there and watched it almost just as it slowly walked across the whole way, almost because I wanted someone else to come along and comment on it. And I want to be like, hey, look at this centipede. But for like 5 minutes, nobody came along. It was like in movies where there's someone like, they're like in like a bookstore or art store or a supermarket or something, and they're doing something crazy, like having a fist fight in an aisle in a public store, right? Something crazy is happening, and you're like, does no one notice this is happening? Where are all the people in this store? And that's how I felt. But it's actually probably not that unrealistic, because there might have actually been no one else in the store, since it's just a little art store. There were a few other weird things that happened to me that day, but now I'm realizing that as I say them out loud, as I talk myself through them, they're sounding like very normal things. They're just, maybe I was just like kind of sleepy still or something, not totally awake. And all these it's kind of weird to see a giant centipede crossing an store aisle, and kind of weird to be stuck up against the biggest glass sliding doors you've ever seen, but and to wrestle with them briefly. I feel like that's the case with a lot of things, even if they seem weird and wild and inexplicable. Not that any of these are inexplicable, but things seem less weird after you say them out loud. Kind of like how your car seems less broken as soon as you go to the mechanic, and how your body seems less sick as soon as you go to the doctor. Anyways, I gotta go right now. I have to finish preparing a presentation I have to do in sculpture class tomorrow on two sculptors. The two sculptors I chose were Meg Webster and Isumu Noguchi. I think out of the two of those, Noguchi is probably the more famous one. I've actually been to his museum in Long Island, New York. Meg Webster was completely new to me, but she's definitely worth looking up. She does I think it's called land art, and I think the style is called post-minimalism, which I need to, that's one of the things I need to look up some more, like what exactly does that mean, if anything. But basically she makes like very basic shapes, like spheres, cubes, cones, stuff like that, out of materials like sod and grass and salt, and sometimes like inverted. She made, I think it was called a room for bees, and it was like a concave hemisphere full of flowers that you could walk into. It was really cool. Anyways, very inspired by these sculptors. Keep on wanting to call them sculptures, but they're sculptors who they make powerful and really cool things, but it's also very simple. Like it's boiled down to only the essential parts. I feel like maybe there's something I can learn there. We'll see. Don't worry, I'm not going to start making just squares and circles, but I might try. Anyways, have a good one. Goodbye. Love you.